Okay, good morning. For the record, I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC Sign Advisory Council. Let's confirm access. Members, please respond with an aye when I call your name. Paul Wolf.
Aye.
Kevin Kuster.
Aye.
Ben Normand.
Aye.
And for staff, we have Esmeralda Martinez.
Present.
This open meeting of the HDC's SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order, posted with the agenda materials for the meeting, allow public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording, and we're being broadcast on the town's YouTube channel. We will feature public comment. Materials provided to members for the meeting or provided during the meeting are, unless otherwise noted, available on the town's website. During the meeting, I'll introduce agenda topics and speakers. Please remember to mute your Zoom audio until your name is called, and direct comments and questions through the chair to avoid crosstalk and the taking of minutes easier. Votes will be conducted by roll call. So let's call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock on March 28th, 2023. Does anybody want to motion an approval for our agenda?
So move.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Kevin. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
And Kevin?
Aye.
Great. And the minutes from our last meeting. Would anybody like to motion for approval of those?
So move.
Thanks, Kevin.
Second.
Sorry
Yes.
for interrupt, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if Billy had sent out minutes. Hence I did not add them to the agenda because I was not 100% sure if he had sent them or not.
I believe he did, and it is on the posted agenda, I thought, but give me a moment here. Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were sent out,
Okay.
and
Number
looked
5.
accurate. Yeah, so
Okay.
I've lost track. Was that a motion by Kevin and a second by Paul?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Kevin?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on to public comment. Is anybody here for commentary on something other than an application on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Do any commissioners have comments they'd like to put on record?
Yes, I do.
Thanks, Kevin.
Just quickly, I'm not sure, Esmeralda, maybe you can pass this on to Billy, but I think it would be worthwhile for some of us and Billy perhaps to take a ride by the airport. It's really gotten quite, disheveled, and there's a lot of new additional signs that I don't think anybody has seen. So it's not urgent, but I think it might be worthwhile to have a conversation with somebody at the airport.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And just to be clear, that's inside the campus. You're saying basically trying to get a master sign plan that pulled together.
Well, it's more of the fact that what was there has not been maintained and new things have been added.
Right. Okay.
You'll see when you drive around it.
Sure. I think it's been a creep, right, with the parking changes and everything. Okay. Good comment. Anybody else have any commissioner comments? No. All right, we'll move on to new business. We have 8 Chester Street. Is anybody on the line for that projecting sign?
Yes, Jillian Alps is on the line.
Okay. Would you like to introduce us to this application? Tell us what you're proposing.
Just proposing a replacement of the original sign. I guess it was taken down a little while ago. We've just taken over management of the hotel. We've just exactly the same previous sign, same dimensions, no change.
Okay. Same existing bracket that's there, or are you putting a new bracket up?
I think we're putting a new bracket up, but it replaces the existing photo of what the original sign was like.
Okay, thank you. Let me open it up to the commissioners for comments. First of all, actually, Esmeralda, can we go back to the application for a moment just to see the materials and colors? Size. Okay. We'll go around the horn. I'll do Ben, Kevin, and then Paul. So Ben, do you want to start out?
Yeah, I just want to see a picture of the existing sign before it was taken down. I just want to make sure that's we're
I don't believe the sign's been up for a while. We just have a photo of what it was previously looked like, and we reenacted it with a new sign.
but this isn't it. This is a representation of where it's going. Yeah, this is proposed.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that pre-existing sign personally, just to make sure, because I'm pretty familiar with this corner, and that sign doesn't look familiar to me. So.
I mean, there's no. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, there's no. I'm not sure where the existing one was. That's the only picture that we have of where it was or what it looked like, unfortunately.
But the picture we're looking at right now, that's a representation of the proposed sign, correct? Like that's a cut. You've cut and pasted that in there, right?
That's the new sign. The shape is just different than the previous sign. It's new brackets, but it would be in the same spot as the previous sign.
Oh, just the same location, but the actual sign is a new design.
Correct, yes.
Correct.
Okay. Can we
Yeah,
see the
so
sign?
Ben, do you
Can I
have-
see the sign again? My opinion, I really appreciate a sign that actually has some interest. I know at last meeting, we were all kind of hemming and hawing of our kind of rectangular boring signs that we've been seeing a lot lately. So I appreciate that. I think the only comment on this sign is that we typically do not allow or suggest or allow Nantucket written on the sign. It's, you're already here. You don't need to know. So that, I think other than that, I think I'm relatively comfortable with this.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Well, Kevin.
Yeah, I think the sign is fine. I'm looking at the way the bracket is positioned on the photograph and what's showing on the screen right now. I'm where it actually mounts to the post is a little confusing to me. I think the photograph shows kind of a white block, and the I would rather just see the bracket mounted to the post.
Serve Pro.
I'd rather just see the bracket mounted to the post without another addition of a board on there. I'm not sure what that is. That's my only comment.
Hello.
Okay. Do you want to address that as far as the that white line we're seeing, or what is that? How is that mounted to the post?
That was actually taken from, we had that with the previous sign. Unfortunately, we were trying to mimic what the previous sign looked like off of a very small picture. To be honest, it was already taken down by the time we took over that hotel. That was there with the older sign, so we just kind of mimicked that portion. I'm sure that maybe that could be mounted to the actual post. I'm not 100% sure, and I have to speak to the sign designer because I'm pretty sure it's put there for the stability of the actual sign.
Okay, well, I would say my concern, actually, I'll go over to Paul, and then I'll circle back to me. Paul, do you have any comments?
I think we might have lost Paul.
Okay, but my concern, it's a 42-inch long sign, which I think is wider than any that I can recall ever approving. 5 square feet would be the maximum allowable size. This comes in a little bit larger than that. And I think that the 42 inches, just the scale of it, it's a pretty large sign. And I can understand with the cantilevering will make it even harder to support. So I can imagine that the bracket would have to be pretty significant to support that. So my desire would be, and I think, Ben, you were on the right track when you were asking about, the existing sign. I don't I don't recall there being any sign close to 42 inches wide there. So I'd like to see that scale brought down a little bit. And I think that would help to support a typical bracket. You know, we have dozens and dozens of projecting signs around town that are able to be supported without additional, you know, wood or posts being screwed onto the supports. So I think that my concern is simply the overall size. I think 42 inches, it's already over the guidelines, the limit for the guidelines, but that bringing it down maybe a 36 wide, which is a pretty typical width for a large projecting sign, would help.
No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't find the button.
So do you have any thoughts on that as far as the applicants wanting to respond?
I think we will have to go back to our designer and see if we can get that, and we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, let me just give you a sense of when things. So essentially, if you were to like a 16 by 36 would be the scale, keeping your scale pretty much the same, so that it wouldn't change your design. It would just change the size of the overall sign. Again, that would bring it into compliance with the size guidelines for the projecting signs. And I think it would also just help with the overall, you know, just not being such a wide sign. Paul, you're back. I don't know. Did you have a chance to?
I
Speak
agree
on
with
this.
what Ben said about the Nantucket. I don't know
Okay.
if the word is important or not, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Um,
I think that's okay, but the Nantucket doesn't need to be there.
Okay. So, would,
Chris, I think this
We
woman
should
Sue's
make a
got her
motion.
hand up.
oh, okay, I can't sell that. Esmeralda, who would like to speak?
Oh, she's muted though.
Okay,
She's talking, but she's muted.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to offer, there is a picture on the MLS in real estate that shows the back of the sign. So I might be able to help out by sending a photograph. And I apologize if this is unwelcome, but I did manage to find one. So
actually, thank you. What's the, I don't know if it's possible to
Yeah,
screen share. You found it on the MLS?
yeah, just from an old sale. It was like a semicircle, and it was on a white bracket in that position, but I'm happy to forward that to the applicant if that's of interest, or to whoever would like
Well,
it.
Esmeralda, is it possible to let Susan screen share? Are you on the same device that you're logged in
I'm
with,
not.
Susan?
I looked at it on my phone. Hold on.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I can,
She
Esmeralda,
wants to
I can
forward
email
it.
it to you.
If she wants to email it to me, I can certainly screen share
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'll do. Sorry about that. I just thought that might be
No,
helpful.
that's great. Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate it. And I think overall, I think we all appreciate the new design. So it doesn't necessarily have to emulate the old design, so to speak, but the size should comply with the guidelines. And the wording, you know, the Nantucket has been strongly discouraged because of the fact that it's just sort of, it's natural for applicants to put it on the applications, but it's, as Ben said, we all know where we are at this point. That's just, I think that's something that should be considered. Do we want to make a motion? Would somebody like to make a motion for this application so that we can let
I'm
the
happy to
applicants
make
go
a
back
motion.
and review all this?
I'll make
Go
a
ahead,
motion to approve with the size reduced to 16 by 36 and the bracket to be mounted as minimally as possible to the post. I'm less concerned about this is just a side note. I'm less concerned about the word Nantucket because it does give it some balance, but I think they could also put some other element in there. So with the word, I'll add with the word Nantucket removed or changed to an element, an artistic element.
Okay. A question for
Second.
the applicants. Is it before we vote, I just want to get a clarity from the applicants. Is it the centerboard in, or is there a name? Is there another word that, could imagine we could make this application?
Well, I think we did the center board Nantucket because it's only a 7-room. Inn depicts a little bit bigger, or hotel depicts a little bit bigger. So we thought just to keep it the center board and just Nantucket.
Okay. So we have the motion, which was seconded, is to reduce the size. And as the applicants, you can, this will go forward with a recommendation for approval if it passes. If you decide that you want to make any other applications, you could always apply to amend this. But just to let you know, we have the motion to approve at 36 by 16 and with the word Nantucket removed. That was motioned by Kevin, seconded by Paul. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and Ben, excuse me, Kevin?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Okay, I'm in favor of that as well. So this will go to the meeting tonight of the full board with a recommendation for approval. If you go to your designers or your, the folks that need to weigh in on this as the applicants, you can apply to have that revised, but this will go forward with a motion for approval or recommendation for approval.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And the next we have St. Paul's Church. Is anybody on the line for that?
I don't see anyone here for St. Paul.
If not, why don't we move on? We'll table that for the moment. Go on to Susan and NIR Retails, 16 Old South Wharf.
That is me.
All right. Would you like to introduce us to this application?
Sure. So this is on the Old South Wharf. Funny enough, it's right next to Slip 14, and the name of the shop is 12 Trees. It's actually a shop that my mother had. It's in honor of my mother in Connecticut, and so it's just when she was here with me, I opened a little shop so she could be down there. I apologize, on the application it reads 27 by 22, but the vertical is 22, the horizontal being 27, and I'm the only shop down there that has 2 doors. And because of the positioning of Slip 14, I felt that it was better, suited to do something against the wall as opposed to a sign that you could not see from the other direction. So I would be the only front-facing sign down there, but again, with the double doors, I just felt it was a better placement. There was a bracket there. I would be taking that down. You can't tell from this photo, but the roof pitches downward. And so that just made sense too. You might be able to see it from a zoom in on that, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what else I can
Kevin.
share, sorry.
Thanks, Susan. I'm going to go Kevin, Paul, and then Ben. So Kevin, start us off.
I don't have any issues with the sign itself, other than the fact that it says it's made out of a high density urethane. It should be made out of wood. Other than that, I don't have any issues with the sign. I question a little bit it being mounted to the wall, but I'd be curious what other people have to say. That's all.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. It needs to be a wood sign, and it doesn't talk about whether it's painted or not, or, oh, yes, it does. I'm sorry, carved and painted. Other than that, fine.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, definitely the material. Looking at that picture of the storefront, there's that. Yeah, there you go. There's that freestand or the wall, the shanty sign. Is that coming down? Is the shanty no longer? Or is
No,
that the
that's
other
actually a sorry.
Yeah, no, Susan, please, yeah.
That's a part of slip 14. That's their little raw bar. That shanty sign's been there for quite some time.
But and that's gonna stay up because those next set of doors is the shanty? Is that?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
These are very narrow spaces.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I mean, I think the placement's not great, but I don't think it's the end of the world either. So I'm okay. Except for the material.
Well, and I did have him
Okay.
spec it in mahogany as well. It was just, he was recommending that just because of, the wearability. And I did notice, I thought some had been approved in the high density urethane, but that's not a big deal. I just, I put it on the form as that way, but he's spec'd it as both. He's built a sign for me years ago. So, anyway.
All right, well, it sounds like this might be motion for approval with the mahogany option. If you're okay with
Chris,
that,
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
Paul. Yes, please, Paul.
does this have a border around it? Sign,
It says so on the application. And it looks like a faint line. Is that,
Yeah, that is an engraved line of gray around and then the edge banding as well.
okay? So that's the
Okay.
same shade of gray as the trees and the font.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
it's just 2 shades of gray.
okay.
Got it. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve using a wood material.
Second,
Okay, Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben
Aye.
and Paul?
aye.
Great, I am as well. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
All right, good luck with the shop this summer.
Thank you.
Okay, is anybody on for the Brant? Do we have Linda Williams or another representative?
No, nobody else is here.
Okay, have they applied or submitted any revisions to their application?
No, they have not. I guess this is a master sign plan.
Okay, so we had requested representation at the last meeting, so I suppose that
Correct,
there's not much more we can discuss today.
correct.
Just to make a motion on it, can we have a motion to hold for representation again?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Kevin. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Kevin
Aye.
and Paul?
Aye.
Great. Let's go back up to St. Paul's Church. And did they submit an application?
They did.
Okay.
Would you like to look at it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Got it. And so they submitted a letter. They apologized for the lateness of their application.
Oh, it looks like someone's logging in.
Okay. Can you tell who that is?
Her name is Jessica Rosenberg. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. Are you here for 16 Fair Street?
No, I'm actually here. I meant to call in at 9. I'm actually here with another colleague who I think might be on for 8 Chester.
Oh,
Or-
that.
You guys
okay.
may have already talked about it and I totally missed it.
Yes, they did already, that got an approval already.
Oh, well, that's good news. I guess me being there
Okay.
was good luck. Me not being there
It's the
was good luck.
center board, correct? Just to be,
Yes.
so
for
it
the
was
center
approved
board.
as with the condition, it was oversized as applied for. So
Okay.
we brought it down to the size limits, which made it, if keeping this design and scale the same, 36 by 16 as opposed to 18 by 42. Just so
Okay,
that
let me
that's
just-
what's being recommended to the board for
No problem.
approval.
Yeah.
And the word Nantucket, which is on the sign, is typically discouraged, just because it's natural to think that putting Nantucket on the sign makes sense, but it's sort of, you know, we're all here, so we discourage that. So it was approved without the word Nantucket. Again, if you want to
Okay.
make amendments, well, it's recommended for approval. So in other words, it's going to go to tonight's meeting with our recommendation that it complies with the guidelines, and the full HDC would vote tonight. If you decide that you want to make any amendments to that, you can always apply for a revision, but at least this way you'll have an approval.
No,
If they
that's
approve
awesome.
tonight.
Yeah, and
Okay.
honestly, we're open. So just tell me one more, what size was recommended, if you don't mind me sharing, because I'm actually going to contact our sign designer and have him make it smaller, just so we don't have any issues.
Sure. 36 inches wide is the key. So that brings the scale down to like 15 point, basically 16 inches in height. But if you get technical and he wants to just reduce the exact design, I think really 15.8, something like that. But
No problem. Okay.
essentially,
We'll get
make the
right on
width.
that.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And will you guys just send us like some sort of email or notice if it gets approved at the meeting tonight?
Esmeralda,
So typically we don't send out notices, but your approval should be ready within a week and a half. So you can reach
Okay.
out to me and I can email you that approval.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Back to our St. Paul's Church. So they're apologizing that they're applying after the fact. This is a completely new structure.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were done reading.
No, I'm just scrolling through the photographs. They're showing examples of other church signs, which let's just open it up to the board. I'll go Paul, Ben, Kevin. Paul, do you want to start?
I guess my only comment is it's already built, so we have it in place, according to Ben anyway. We have a dilemma. I think it's way too large compared to other ones that are being shown here and presumably have been approved. It's probably about twice as big as it ought to be. I don't know what we can do about it.
It is, let's see, it's 3 foot by 4 foot. It's the top of it is 7 feet above the ground. So if we were to go to the sign book, it would suggest that they can't exceed 6 square feet. The top of the sign cannot be more than 4 feet above the ground. So we're at 12 square feet, double the size requirement, and it's 7 feet, which is almost double the height. So just to give everybody the perspective. Ben?
Yeah, so I instigated this this whole thing. So I think it's a very well made sign, and truthfully, when I noticed it, I questioned whether it had been there all along, because it really does fit in quite well, or is well done. But I think what our problem is that it clearly doesn't meet the guidelines. It was installed without any approvals or anything. And if I recall correctly, St. Mary's came in for a very similar sign on Federal Street that we denied. Public information signs are absolutely allowable, and religious organizations on the island have them, but unfortunately this one doesn't meet our guidelines and was done without our approval. So I'm unfortunately not really comfortable letting it go.
And Kevin?
I agree with Ben. I'm not sure if it's hard to tell from the application if this would fit anywhere else on the site where it would be less obtrusive, but I can't see anything from here that would indicate that. In addition to it being oversized and too tall, it doesn't seem to be near the entrance as far as I can tell. It looks like it's supposed to be read from the sidewalk and not from a vehicle. So I'm not in favor of this application.
Okay. I agree with everything that's been said. I think that in their application, they're showing a few examples of other signs at religious institutions, most of which look like they comply with the guidelines size-wise, although they don't list their dimensions here. And using the example of St. Mary's is a good example, Ben. I mean, they have asked for this, so we have to be careful about keeping a level playing field with the way that we review these applications. I think it would be important to request representation. Perhaps there is something that can be done to make this an approvable application, but the way it's installed just doesn't comply with the guidelines on too many levels for me to be comfortable recommending approval.
I'll make a motion to deny this application due to the fact it doesn't meet our guidelines.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ben, are you in favor?
No, I'd rather hold it for representation. I'm not ready to deny right off the bat.
If I could,
Okay.
if I could just,
Yes.
if I could just explain why I put the motion for denying, other than the fact it doesn't meet
Thanks,
the
Kevin.
guidelines. It's based on my experience a couple of weeks ago with the full board. We asked Mitchell's to come back, for representation and to present something, and they chose to go to the full board. And it's our recommendation that stands. It doesn't say why, or doesn't ask what kind of revisions or what kind of discussion. I just think for the record, it's clearer to go for a denial in this case. And like you just mentioned, Chris, for the previous application, if they disagree with that, they can reapply. That's the reasoning that I went for the denial rather than the representation. I just think it makes for a cleaner record as we go forward. But I understand if nobody else agrees with that.
Okay. And just as a point of clarification, how did the Mitchell's bookstore, I don't think we've heard how that ended
They
up.
withdrew.
What was okay, they withdrew. Got it. So we have the motion to deny. It was seconded by Paul, did not vote no by Ben. Paul, do you want to vote?
I'll vote yes.
Okay, and Kevin?
Aye.
Okay. I have to vote aye as well. I know that we're all nervous here. This is nobody wants to vote against the church, but I think that it's not an approvable application based on our mission to review per the guidelines. So I would, yes, Paul.
I think there's room for discussion with the representative of the church. It would be easy to lower it. Maybe,
I agree.
and maybe cut it in half. It would take some carpentry. This is an expensive sign. They spent a lot of money. This is all cedar, I believe. It could be modified and approved if it was cut down in half width and lowered to the ground. Need to
Well,
have
they
that
can
plan.
certainly come back with that.
Right. I was thinking this something along those lines as well, Paul. At least lowering it, certainly maybe as somebody suggested a different location that was less obvious or more appropriate. So but this application is before us. I think it's a good message to send up to the board, and like you say, they can reapply. I assume, Esmeralda, the fee is waived on this. Is that true for religious institutions?
Bear with me. No, they paid a fee, $50 fee.
Oh. Okay. Okay. I'd like to, I voted already, so this is passed. I'd like to make another motion that we suggest any reapplication would have its fee waived. Would somebody like to second that?
I'll
Just as a
second that.
recommendation to the board. It's the board's decision, but let's send that message up. Okay. Thanks. Ben, are you in favor of that? And Kevin?
Aye.
Okay. And Paul?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure that's clear. We're not trying to put a burden on them.
So,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, just to be,
Yes.
So this application got denied.
yeah, it just
Okay.
really, it didn't meet the guidelines. So we have to,
Okay.
we're recommending that it be denied. The board can do what they like. We're saying that if they want to reapply, we'd like to see a, no
Different
fee, and we'd
version.
be happy to work with the applicant, but we need representation. We can't decide for them. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. And if we go back to our agenda, I think we're down to enforcement. Is that correct?
That is
Is-
correct.
Without Billy here, is there any update that you have?
I unfortunately do not have any update. Billy should be back by the end of the week. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency, so he should be back by the end of the week, and he'll be back on track with all of us.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other commissioner comments or motions?
Move adjournment.
Paul's motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Thanks. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben
Aye.
and Paul.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.